It's the Dev Friday Show with Mark and Tim.
I don't know, they seem a little, something's up today. Restream, I don't know if it's Restream, I don't know if it's my computer. The bumper music a little choppy there at the beginning. The video stopped halfway through for the countdown. This would not, you know what? If they were interviewing us for a podcast host job, I'm not sure this would be the best foot forward, Mark. What do you think?
I'm no words, Tim. No words.
I don't know. It seems like you're a little far away from the mic. So let's see what we can do there. So anyway, it's Friday. It's the Dev Friday Show. It's Tim and Mark. We've done zero prep. That's for sure.
Absolutely. My mind is like a little bit blurry right now.
Is the right mic going? Did Restream?
Let me see. I'll double check.
I feel like got a lot of room noise there. I don't know what's going on. I think we're probably recording the right mic, which means if you listen to this on the devfridayshow.com website, or if you subscribe to this podcast in any of your favorite podcasting tools, the audio should be superb. At least I think.
I think that should be better, right?
That's 100% better. 100% better. So I'm assuming we were recording the right mic, but we were sending the wrong one to Restream.
Absolutely. That's how we roll, Tim.
That is how we roll.
We are professional podcasters that no one will hire, but at least you're trying.
That's right. And you said I don't do many interviews. What did you mean? Like I don't interview many people? Is that what you meant?
Well, we talked about interviewing in the past. Like how do you interview a developer, or because you've conducted a lot of interviews.
I have, yeah.
But you have, because of your you've done probably some interviews when your contracting past, because when you want to kind of try to get on board with a client,
it's a little different process though, right? Because usually you're like pitching either a solution to a project or a need that they have, and you're saying here's how it could be solved, here's how I would solve it, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah,
so maybe we could touch base on that today, kind of see what your opinion is like, or maybe kind of what you're saying.
Is that the understanding? You're going through this interview process now?
It's happening, Tim. It's happening.
It's happening. Is it happening today?
What is happening today? Yeah.
What is happening today? Are you ready for this?
I think so. I believe.
Is this your first interview?
I've been talking to a bunch of recruiters. So I've been doing kind of some initial, kind of just a lot of phone calls. But this is kind of my first Microsoft Teams remote group interview. Yeah, this will be the first one. So
yeah, because like talking to recruiters, that feels, I don't know, that feels like the actor talking to the agent, but then it's when you go for the dry read, or when they bring you in to see if you're a good fit for the part. So it's a different level, right? So this is your first interview with your first interview with. But
the recruiters do help, because that's what got me this interview. So yeah.
I'm not saying they don't count that way. When you're looking for a job, recruiters can be super helpful.
Yeah.
When you're not looking for a job, they can be, it can be a different thing. It's tough to find that recruiter that's kind of, I don't know, like there's a few out there that I think I've seen over the years where they're actually good at what they do, and they're good at placing you and finding you a job, and not just being like, yeah, you're looking. Like I get hit all the time with either people saying, asking if we're looking for a position, or saying, hey, I've got this person who builds, and it's a bunch of technologies that I may or may not have any background in, and they think I'm a good fit just because, I don't know, LinkedIn matched me or something. I don't know.
So and we may have talked about this a long time ago, but when PhoneBurner is looking for developers or architects or engineers, what is your process like? Do you just put out an ad and then have the hundreds of thousands of applications come through, or we
just hit up Craigslist, believe it or not?
Nice.
So
occasionally I check.
It's a post on Craigslist.
Are you serious? Because occasionally I do check Craigslist, because I'm just curious, like who's still posting. Well, just who is still posting ads on Craigslist? I'm just always curious about that.
I have never even thought.
I never applied.
Are you serious? So
I applied probably about 15, 20 years ago. Maybe I applied to a job through Craigslist, but yeah, I haven't seen that since.
Fascinating.
But it is fun to go back and kind of see what type of offerings are posted on Craigslist.
I mean, generally Craigslist is where you go to find like a really good set of cheap speakers that you might die picking up in a Walmart parking lot, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not a sponsor, by the way. That comment probably never will be. No. Okay. So that's an interesting question, because my philosophy on that is I don't really want to put out a job posting and get floods of applications, right?
Yeah.
Once upon a time, this is an interesting story, and I think I'm fine to tell it. Once upon a time, I remember Stack Overflow Careers. It still exists.
I never
It
really
still
took advantage of
exists.
it, but yeah, I know about
Yeah,
it.
you can put like your profession. What was interesting about Stack Overflow Careers for me is if you were engaged with the Stack community, which I guess now it's just a bunch of people that are training AI to answer the questions for us, I think. But if you were engaged with the Stack community, which I'm in a weird place there, right? Like if you look at my Stack Overflow reputation, it's pretty high, but it's not like high. You know what I'm saying? Like there's those that are so far, be like, how did you even get all that? Because at this point, I'm not saying all the questions have been asked, but a lot of them have been. So there's less of that. Let me give you this good answer to this general question that then will live on and just collect upvotes, right? So I have a decent reputation on Stack Overflow. It's not nearly what, like I said, what others that really engaged with the platform would have, or have. It grows slowly just because people keep upvoting answers that I've made years ago on stuff that still may or may not be relevant. So the value to me for using Stack Overflow Careers is it tied it to that. So if someone saw or wanted to vet, does this person know what he's talking about in terms of APIs, or specific APIs too, right? I was doing a bunch of stuff for telco APIs once upon a time, right?
Yeah.
So they could actually easily go from my Stack Overflow Careers page to see my answers and be like, oh, look, he probably is a domain expert. So that's what was attractive to Stack Overflow's Careers for me. And this is a long story, so just sit back, relax. We'll get there eventually. I have a profile there, and you can reach out to people through Stack Overflow Careers. So how long have I been working with PhoneBurner? I think 6 years, something like that now. And then before that, so it would have been roughly 11 years ago, I got an email from the CTO of PhoneBurner saying, saw my Stack Overflow.
Oh, really?
Careers. Yeah.
That's
And wanted to know if I was interested. And I was like, no, not really. I just started working, pretty much as dev evangelist for this company called Nexmo. And, but if you give me a little bit more information, I'll keep it in mind and see if there's anybody locally that I know, a PHP developer that might be interested. And we had a little bit of a conversation, and it was a nice conversation. Fast forward like those 5-6 years later, when I'm looking for a new gig, I happen to know about PhoneBurner because of people in the PHP community. So people that I had met at PHP Tech, which, by the way, a conference coming up just this month in a couple weeks. People I've met at PHP Tech and other conferences, I knew worked there. So I reached out to them and said, hey, are you looking for a job? Are you looking for a developer? So the reverse. And it was like, yeah, we might be interested. I said, how about part-time? And they were like, no, we're not looking for a part-time developer. And I was like, well, maybe the startup thing is going to pan out. So I was just looking for something to kind of supplement it. A week later after that, I was like, no, I'm looking for a full-time job now. So yeah, you said you're interested in full-time. Let's see what we can talk about. And it wasn't until a few months into me working at PhoneBurner that we realized they had reached out those 6 years before through Stack Careers. And one of the other devs on the team was reached out about the same time. So he's been there for the 12 years or 10 years or however long it's been. And he was one of the people I knew that worked there that through the community, because after he started working for PhoneBurner, I think he started having more of a presence in the PHP community and in the conferences, and that's where I met JC, who happens to be the person who runs PHP Tech now, and PHP Architect. So long picture to paint there to say, when we're ready to hire, I actually have the names of developers that have talked to me or people on our team at different conferences and said, hey, next time you're hiring, reach out to me. So not people that are actively looking for a job now, but people that after seeing our team and knowing a little bit more about our team have said, yeah, I may be interested in switching to you. Not that, hey, I need a job now, but this is an opportunity that I am willing to say, yeah, next time you're looking, let me know. I might transition to phone burner and not be like, well, I don't have a job, I'm looking for a job. That's the type of conversation I want to have, because there's no pressure, right? It's not like I'm saying, yes, you're a good fit for me because honestly, I want a job right now. It's somebody who knows our culture, knows what our team is doing, and says, that's really interesting. One day that might be fun. Let me know when you're looking. So I have a list of, I forget how many names. That's the first place I'm going.
Yeah, it's interesting because back when I was applying, or if I think about the jobs I've gotten after college, most of them probably were through personal connections.
Yeah.
Just meeting people, either mostly face to face, maybe sometimes online. I did apply. Remember back in the day when you could see like the ads in the newspaper?
Okay. So yes.
Those were the good days.
I was a contract developer for so many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Working for multiple clients.
I love how I'm going to start to tell a personal story about myself, and you just roll in with your own.
Hey, we've got stories all over the place. This one will be a quick one. I don't even know if it was probably, I think once I started working for Nexmo or something like that, and I was traveling, and it's like, oh, I guess this is a real job. But for years, my dad would give me help ads. He would give me the classifieds of the newspaper with the tech jobs circled. And it's like, Dad, I have a job. I actually do work. It's this contracted thing. But yeah, so you look in the paper.
I don't know if I ever got a tech job by looking at the newspaper, but I remember growing up and doing that. I worked at a drugstore. I worked at the Hotel Bethlehem, the hotel in downtown Bethlehem. Yeah, I was a bellhop.
Historic Hotel Bethlehem.
The historic one, yeah. I was a bellhop. I was a fun job. Yeah, I like that one.
Do they have a good breakfast every Sunday? Is that what they're known for?
I have no idea anymore. It's been so long since I've been there.
There's something they advertise on the radio. So a bellhop. How interesting of a job was that?
It was good because I did the whole kind of bellhop services by helping people get their luggage up to their rooms. Also delivered room service, and I got some tips.
Yeah, I gotta say, were the tips good?
Yeah, tips weren't bad. Yeah, especially around like the holidays or music fest is crazy, and I could have some sordid stories to tell about what goes on around downtown Bethlehem and around Music Fest, which is kind of a crazy time. Ever since then, I don't go back down there.
What was a good tip then?
A good tip. Oh, yeah, probably the largest, probably like maybe $50 or $60
for getting luggage up to the.
No, that was actually for room service, like delivering some like champagne.
Really, $50-$60 for just.
And that happened like a couple times. I don't think I ever got like $100 tip, but it was definitely over $50, and I got that a couple times.
Wow, that's nice, huh?
Like more than often, it was just like what, $2, $5. Most time it was that, but. That was a fun job, and I think I may have gotten that from a newspaper ad, because that was the good old days when like the space was limited. Companies had to pay money, a lot of money
per word, right?
Yeah, to get their ad on the newspaper page, and it felt like it was also, you had more. I don't know. It was like it took more effort to apply to, because you had to either had to call there or drop off your resume at the location, so you could actually make a connection easier. Now the internet's just screwed all that up, because now with all these job sites and there's so much space, infinite space to put
it's too free,
a million requirements for each position, and and then you get just a flood of emails, like you said, because like there's just bots and people are just spamming all these posts, and it destroys the process for everyone.
So we build. What is it? Monster.com? Is that the job? I forget what's the
there's Monster, there's Career Builder, now it's pretty much just like Indeed and
is that what it is now? Yeah.
Indeed.
So we build Indeed. We build Indeed, but there's it's like original Twitter. 140 characters for your job.
Yeah, it looks just like a newspaper page, just like little boxes.
Yeah, just little boxes.
I'm sure companies would just love that.
And we restricted. Well, you know what that reminds me of? This classifieds. Do you remember? I feel like it was a fad that was very quick, but like the pixel pages or where it would be a web page, and you'd buy so many pixels on it to put your little logo or something like that, and they'd be like, yeah, there's only this much space, and then when it's filled up, and then we're gonna have so much traffic here for, I don't know why they thought there was gonna be traffic there, but they did. And it was that same idea of space is a premium.
It's true.
You have to pay for whatever, and because you could have a larger classified ad, right? Like a classified ad, if I remember, it's like say it's $25 for the ad, and you get 50 words, and then it's what is it, $5 per word after that, or something crazy, So you could pay for it if you wanted, if you wanted to list all those job requirements.
So yeah, I agree that, like, knowing people personally, face to face, kind of keeping a Rolodex, which it's interesting, like kind of going back into the industry after I've been teaching for so long, and have some similar connections we have from Lehigh Valley Tech, and can kind of touch base with. But it's interesting that academia and industry contacts are a different thing. So it's been a little bit of a challenge. And that's one thing.
Rolodex a little dusty. Is that the problem?
Yes, and also like just the people that I know in academia don't really know a huge amount of people in the industry too. So it's like, the industry I want to transition back into. So it's been a bit of a challenge, and I'm making a list of kind of in-person events. Like I went to the AWS Lehigh Valley Users Group. It was during the couple nights ago when it was like a torrential storm, but they were hosting it online too. They hold it in Easton, and I was able to kind of connect online, and they had somebody from AWS, an architect from AWS presenting. It was actually pretty interesting. The Philly AWS user group is next week, so I'll be going down to that. It's in Exton, PA. So yeah, that's the best places, just to kind of make connections, get to know people.
And that's kind of what recruiters are supposed to do.
Yeah,
they're supposed to have those Rolodexes. Now, whether you find one that's actually good at that job and making the right connections, and
they're also overworked and flooded with requests and responses themselves. Yep. So they have a huge filtering thing they have to do too. So, but it's a process, Tim. It's a process.
And I think the takeaway here is definitely Craigslist. So
or maybe I should put an ad for myself. Maybe that's what I should do. I should just I just got to invert this and be like, solutions architect, cloud engineer.
Now, okay, so I want to know, is this an ad?
I would probably get some crazy requests, like to put together some like home pages and like personal portfolio sites and stuff like that. Yeah.
Is this Craigslist, or are you gonna put this in the classifieds?
Oh, just Craigslist. Yeah.
I'd love to see that though in a classified ad. Cloud solution specialist.
You think. Honestly, that isn't a bad deal. I'm curious. I may check out how much that could cost, because you think about it, there's probably some CTOs or IT managers locally that still look at the classifieds, and they would probably be blown away if somebody offered, like, paid the money and to do a real classified post. I might actually get that. I'm going to take a look at that.
Who is that guy? You remember years ago? It was it'd be the late infomercial guy who would be telling you it's just these tiny classified ads, and I forget, like, I think he was just selling basically ebooks. It wasn't ebooks. It was like these little. It was the stereotypical, here's a guide to tell you how to make money, and how you make money is selling guides how to take money with these tiny classified ads.
It's a
pretty sure he's in jail for something.
Yeah. But you can always make money. That will never go away.
Yeah. I like that. So here's the thing. So to buy yourself a number, not a different number, right? Because I don't think you want to put your number in the newspaper, and see what calls you get for that. That would be fascinating.
I'm gonna have a third number. I actually already have a second number. Yeah, I actually got a Grasshopper.
Oh, okay.
Grasshopper.com, because I wanted to really filter the calls, like everything that I'm putting out in my resumes or making the connections with. I want to know exactly when that call comes in, because most of the time I just get spam calls, and I really don't answer my phone unless I know who's calling me. So I want to, and when somebody calls through Grasshopper, I can say it's Grasshopper, and I can immediately pick it up. And so that's been nice. So I'll probably need to get a third number, because I don't want to have my Grasshopper line.
No, I don't think so.
Flooded with these newspaper inquiries.
I'm fascinated with this. We need to come back. We need to come back to this.
I'm curious how much it costs.
Be an update for next week. Well, it depends on where.
And the newspapers are hurting, so come on.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that means it's going to be cheaper or more expensive, because they have less people actually advertising it. Would you go with the top tier? Would this be a morning call classified?
You have to do a morning call.
You have to do the morning call. What else?
That's still around.
It's still around. Yeah. There's like what is the is there the East? I remember the East Penn Press, and then that was the little.
And there's one in Easton. I forgot the name of it. That's probably the second most popular one in Lehigh Valley.
I have no idea what the Easton newspaper is then.
Yeah, I checked their website.
Also,
sometimes their website pops up.
So that's interesting.
Like I'm telling you, I think there's a lot of older, more traditional
there you go.
managers, I think, who still look at the classified ads, and they would probably be blown away with a modern cloud engineer architect position being advertised. That would
right there.
That would be interesting.
I want to know. All right, next week we need an update. We need to know how many words were in the ad, how much it cost you, and how many calls you got. So we will we'll be back with that next week. This sounds like it will. Let's just I'm not gonna make a bumper for it, but we should have a bumper for it. So for a little segment. Maybe we will. Maybe I'll splurge and spend $5 to have somebody say something interesting. And,
so did you do anything interesting this week?
Did I do anything interesting this week?
Yeah. You work on anything interesting?
What in the world?
Do you deal with any big problems that you had to think about and solve?
I'm just trying to remember what this was. Is it Friday already?
It's Friday. It's always Dev Friday, Tim. That's the only time we talk.
No, nothing comes. Well, I saw the eclipse. Did you see the eclipse?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we talked about that. It was cloudy. I think you traveled somewhere to see it, right?
That's what the title should have been. Not interview prep, but interview eclipse. You know, when we put two, that's what we should have done. Yeah, I traveled. Did you see it? You just stayed, right?
Yeah, I wasn't in all the hype that everybody else was online. People are just losing their minds about this thing.
Neither was I, honestly, but it was one of those things where I knew people were going different places. I knew it was coming up. I actually had put it down years ago.
Well, I heard that
it was going to cross close to some places that we are at frequently.
Based on our location in Northeast PA or Eastern PA, just the location of the moon, it wasn't going to be a perfect, like a total eclipse. It was going to be
we'd see
3/4, I believe. I think that's what they said.
Yeah. Did you have cloud cover?
Oh yeah. So my plan was after I got done with teaching my classes, I usually sometimes go to the gym. So I was like, okay, by the time I get to the gym, it'll be approximately around the time it'll be. So I'll look up the sky, but it was cloud covers the whole time. I even tried to look. There was just nothing up there. So I was in the worst location.
Did you even have eclipse glasses, or you were just going to look at the sun?
I got my sunglasses.
You just with sunglasses. Sunglasses.
Well, just take a little peek.
Just a little peek. Like, peek. Only 3/4 of my eyes are blinded now. Yeah, okay. I see what it is.
Some strong
some strong sunglasses.
Strong shades there, yeah.
Mark's got 3 sunglasses. Like
it only costs like $15 at the drugstore, but hey, I trust him.
He's got sunglasses, and he's got like the sunglasses that flip down for normal glasses on top of his sunglasses, and that should be enough. No, we
so where did you go? Did you get a better view?
So, okay, I was looking, and this was interesting because you kind of go like, where is it in my state? And it's in Erie. And I was thinking of driving out to Erie, but Erie's a bit of a drive.
Yeah.
And then there was also I'm not familiar with Erie. They say there's going to be traffic. I don't even know where to go, and so I was thinking, I'm going to look for a city that's in the path of totality, that's maybe not Erie, but smaller, and maybe it will be less crowded. And like, maybe we'll go even into New York, because if we're already close to Erie, it's not far from New York. And I was like, well, where is the path? And I realized the path goes right through Syracuse. It goes up to Mexico, New York, which if you're familiar with Mexico, New York, I'm probably surprised. Mexico, New York is where my mom's parents lived for like the last part of their life. And well, technically it was down in Syracuse, but like when I knew them, they were living up in the Mexico, New York area, which is on the shores of Lake Ontario. And we would go up there to vacation when I was a kid, and that is where I proposed to my wife, and that is where we got married. We got married right on the shores of Lake Ontario, up in a state park in Mexico, New York. So I looked and like, yep, that's in the path of totality. So we're like, let's go back. So I'm like, we're familiar with the place. So we headed out early. We got there before it got too crowded, which was nice. I mean, it wasn't packed in this little kind of state park. It's just a small park. It wasn't packed, but there were enough people that it overflowed their parking lot, and they were parked down the street and stuff. When I say street, it's rural New York. So it's Mexico, New York is known for. That's where you go if you want to go salmon fishing. Well, you go to a couple of cities that are close to it, but it's basically just got a bunch of fishermen there.
So that was still a good hike to get up to northern New York.
Less than Erie though, right? It's just supposed to be 4 hours. So we went up there. There was cloud cover. It was nice though. It kept moving. So occasionally, you kind of be able to see the eclipse through the cloud cover. So they acted as the eclipse glasses, I guess. And then when the sun would come out, we could throw the eclipse glasses on, and we could actually see, see the moon moving in front of the sun. When it was getting close to totality, you could see, now this is getting pretty, the cloud cover is getting pretty dark. So we were not able to see totality, but it was fascinating to be at the lake because, I mean, now we pretty much know. So you can like look at your watch and be like, oh, it's a minute away. It's 30 seconds away. And it was amazing. It was like the sunset right there on the lake. And you could see out over the lake. You could see like those sunsetty colors. It was a little different because there's no sun setting. Right. But it's the light that you're actually seeing from way across the lake, because the lake is a large body of water and it's flat. So you could see that there's still light on the horizon because the moon's shadow is not there, but there's no light where you are. It got really dark. All the crickets came out again. And for like 3 minutes, we're in what feels like night. And then it got light again. And it was pretty fascinating.
What was the exact time? Well, you were probably northern, so I might have been matching up with me. What was the time when that happened?
Yeah, it would have been a little bit after you, but not much, because I think the difference in totality from Texas to where we were was about 40 minutes. So it wouldn't have been far off.
Because that's what I was hoping for. At least if I wasn't able to see the eclipse, I did want to see just being dark around us.
It was totality. I think was around, I want to say 315, 320, something like that.
Yeah, because I didn't even see that happen as much, because it was like I was on my
it wouldn't have got that
on
much
my
darker
elliptical in the gym with the window facing outside. So I was at least hoping to see it would be dark, so I could at least see that, experience something. But I didn't even get that, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, because even as it was moving up to totality for us, it wasn't that dark until it was in totality, and then it's like, yep, then it got dark. So it is really the shadow, which I think the pace of the shadow, if I remember correctly, moving about 1,000 miles an hour on the ground, which tells you that's why it's that that fast from Texas to where we were. Like we have, one of my coworkers in Texas was like, that was amazing. 40 minutes before we were like, that was amazing.
Well, yeah, if you're in Texas, or I saw some clips from Indianapolis, like people watching it there, and if I was in an area like that, I would have been a little bit more excited about it.
Yeah, my wife grew up in Bloomington, and Bloomington was directly in the path. And Indiana University, Bloomington is the main campus for Indiana University. They had the whole stadium filled, and they had speakers and stuff. And I think the weather there was good, which is good. Some people went like, well, we did, but we didn't spend thousands of dollars to get to a place that was in cloud cover. So I can imagine some people may have been a little bit frustrated due to the weather. I looked in Erie, because when we were trying to figure out where we were going to go before we realized we could just go up to Mexico, I looked in Erie and I'm like, all right, what does a hotel room go for? Rooms that were going for $50 the week before, we're going for $900 the week of. I was like, that's bananas, folks. I don't know what's going on here, but this is crazy sauce.
So yeah, I didn't take part in the whole festivities. wasn't a huge thing.
Getting home was tough.
Yeah.
Because apparently there's only one road out of New York, I guess, and everybody was on it. And what should have been a 4-hour trip was like a 6.5-hour trip to get home. So that was and we stopped at family to have dinner, and I don't know if that was a good or bad move. I think, it was like maybe we could have beat the rush. But my thought was, no, the rush will be gone once we're done. And it wasn't really gone. It was 81. For those that are familiar with like kind of the interstates around New York, 81 was moving at about 15 miles an hour for a good time of the day.
So I'm still thinking about a previous conversation, because the show is titled Interview Prep.
Was my clip story getting too boring? Was that what this?
Well, my mind was wanting back to that.
I want to know what you've done to prep for your interviews. You have one today.
Yes, we could. I do have actually one thing I could mention that we could talk about. But I was thinking back to the knowing people and then having a list of people you can contact and kind of bring them in. So when you do bring them in, do you kind of run them through like a regular interview process, or since you already know them, maybe you'll streamline it? Like, what do you do?
No, I think it's the same for us. What we've done historically in the past, and I think we've done the same thing, whether it's somebody that I knew or somebody, or when I say I knew, somebody that I knew, somebody in the team knew, versus someone who came like through a recruiter. I think it's generally the same process. We would do, I think for the dev team, generally I would do a technical interview, and then they'd interview with Kevin, the CTO, kind of from a culture fit type of a feel. And depending on, I think sometimes there might be one more in there. If it's somebody who's got more client side experience, they may interview with someone who can ask questions around that a little bit better. But I think it's generally
pretty much the same.
Yeah, at least that's what it's been in the past. I will say I've been part of other processes for hires at different positions in the company that aren't part of the dev team, where there were multiple people interact because the role is going to be touching more, I guess, of the rest of the company. Not if you think of like where their fit is, and I was one of the ones that interviewed, and that was interesting to have multiple people interview a person, and then we all kind of talked about, well, multiple people interview multiple people, and then we kind of talked about that. I found that process really fascinating.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, I was on a bunch of hiring committees at the school, and that's usually what they do. Is you have a committee, and then you go through the whole process between like the phones, the on-campus interviews, and then you kind of meet up and discuss and like decide together. Yeah. Same thing like what I hear about from the Amazon Loop interviews. If you get on campus on Amazon, you spend like 5 hours.
You just go
interviewing
person,
five different people, and then after that, then they just talk about you and then decide.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be fun to hear them talk about you, or horrible. It could also be horrible.
Well, I did ask my one AD-based recruiter I was talking to. I was like, so do you guys give any like feedback? Like if they like not from like an interview, but let's say if somebody was reviewing their like the hiring manager for that team was reviewing your resume, and let's say they didn't think you were a good fit. Would you get any feedback in regards to that? So I could kind of just know. He's like, no, that's our policy. We don't give any feedback.
This is so is this an internal recruiter?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you meet up with them, and then they start pushing your resume to hiring managers for different teams.
Right.
And at that point, then it's up to the hiring manager if they want to do the kind of the online phone interview and then start the process from there.
Gotcha. So how are you prepping for this interview?
I am,
other than talking to me,
since a very long time, I am printing out a bunch of paper. And I was going to ask you, when was the last time you actually printed paper?
Oh, I do it all the time. Honestly.
You do? Okay, good. Because I was reading about it when I started to put together. Because my plan was I have this big binder.
My
notebook.
kids are like, "Can you print me some coloring pages?" I'm like, "Yes."
This is hard. I even took a bunch of it out.
I can.
So that's my binder, right? So this is kind of my hiring binder. So I'm
world?
printing out all the things that either I know, like say past experiences.
Maybe you should have
projects.
qualified what I print. I print all the time, but the majority of it's like coloring pages for my children.
Okay, well, so what I've been doing, I've been printing like crazy because I've been printing like white papers, articles that I want to kind of just, remind. Because it's also interesting. I kind of, when I'm trying to really sort of crash learn something, trying to get, really trying to push through something, having it on paper does help me. So either for notes
or put notes on the side? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because when you just deal with digital documents like PDFs or bookmarks, you can definitely access them anywhere. But then you're kind of limited in the space in which you can view it at the same time. So I could have my desk filled with like 5 different papers and kind of that are kind of related. So I can kind of like survey them and be able to learn what I need to. So I've been doing that a lot the past couple of weeks. So I've been filling in my binder and using the ink for the first time in my printer for a while.
So if you one thing I've run into that I thought is pretty good. If you've not seen liquid paper,
I see. Is that the one where it's like basically a sketch you could kind of draw on and then kind of just swipe it and it kind of goes away?
Liquid text. That's what I'm looking for. It's a PDF. It's a PDF viewer, and it does though kind of allow you to link different documents. And
no, I've seen that one.
Certainly not as good as what you're saying in the real world, just to be able to put them on your desk and look through stuff. But you can it's a weird pinch zoom where it collapses the pages in between and allows you to link to different pages. You can highlight something and actually just draw a line to another document, and it will put a link there and tell you, oh, you're saying these two things are related. So it's trying to accomplish some of that in a digital world, which I've used it a little bit.
It's also like I don't know if you play with Obsidian. The Obsidian notebook, which is kind of similar, but it's just doing basically like markdown files. but allows you to like have like a network linking structure between the files. I do have a good size Obsidian notebook. I haven't got into the whole linking structure between it because that also feels like it takes a good amount of time. I also think it's probably a little more practical for like when you're making notes and typing and trying to make the connections between it. But seeing how people do utilize that and, kind of have this huge kind of neural network notebook defined inside of Obsidian, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. I'm seeing people actually, when I started typing Obsidian, well, it's probably because I was looking for liquid text. It looks like there's people that talk about them together. So, but yeah. So printing, I mean, this is the Dev Friday show. We talk about tech and very interesting tech topics. So what printer are you rocking these days? I mean, this is the best because we've talked about like classified ads in newspapers, and now it's
4500 inkjet printer that I've had for.
Still rocking the inkjets, huh?
I've had that before the house fire. Like I can't remember when I bought that, but it's just lasted. It's amazing. The one thing I will note, want to tell you though, is that I do subscribe to the HP ink service. You know about this? So it's like a subscription service per month. You have to pay starts at like $3, goes up to $5, goes up to $10, and then you're limited to how many pages you can print. So you're not familiar with this at all?
I'm like, the concept is very familiar because I remember having similar things for toner, but I didn't know that they did it for ink.
So what I started doing this a good number of years ago because I was getting tired of just buying new ink, especially because my printing is if you do it in a very erratic, not consistent way, the ink can dry out. And it just you have to keep buying these expensive cartridges. So like, okay, let me kind of price it out, and like what per month is like what $3 or $4. If I do that per year, it's honestly about the cost of a couple of ink cartridges. So I was like, all right, that based on how much I print per year and how much I print per month, I think that's a good deal. Then I just don't have to worry about it. They send you the ink cartridges in the mail. One thing I noticed though, which drives me crazy, the ones they send you in the mail last forever.
Oh, of course they do.
And then the ones you buy in the store, and because I went off the plan for a little bit because I was like, I'm tired of paying this monthly thing. I'm just going to go buy an ink cartridge and put it in there. Yeah. It ran out within 2 to 3 months, and I had to go buy it again. So I just resubscribed, and
this is going to bring in all the comments right here. This type of stuff. This is the riveting conversation.
It's the biggest scam in the world with that HP just brings on us. But
their
printer,
so wait, but do you have to
replace it? It's great
based on pages. That's
based
like
on pages. Yeah.
So it's keeping track of your page count.
Yep.
And then
it does have some rollover. So if you don't use
when do they send you the ink? Do they know?
Well, they're tracking the ink levels. Yeah. So it has to be a printer that can
is like connected,
so it's communicating, returning the levels with the ink.
Okay. That's fascinating. And like you said, obviously the cartridges they send you last longer,
and that just drives me crazy because I'm like, then they could just make these ink cartridges better that you buy in the store. And
so here's the question: have you ever refilled ink cartridges? Have you ever got into that?
I tried once, and I think it was a fail. Yes, I tried once. I did. It was kind of a weird fail, and I never did it again. But I did try once.
And you feel like you're, I don't know, you're like hacking the system, right? You're like, look at this. I'm going to inject aftermarket ink into this thing. But they keep track of the usage.
True. Yeah.
Like in the printer. And then sometimes you have to convince the printer. It's like, no, there's still ink there. It's like, no, there's not.
Yeah.
No, it's like, no, there is. Because did you ever see the ones where it was a fake cartridge? Like it was I don't want to say a fake cartridge, but like it was a cartridge that didn't have an ink reservoir, but instead had a tube that would go out to a large ink reservoir.
Oh, that's
smart.
I think I may have seen it online, what you're describing, but I've never once attempted to do that.
I tried to put one of those together once. I don't even know if we ever got it working. But like the promise is, look, you can have a vat of ink and it'll never run out. And because I print so much. But no, it was years ago. I just got rid of all the inkjets and I switched over to lasers when lasers became like actually affordable for home users, because they are now. Like you remember when lasers were like, oh yeah, this laser printer is $3,000. You'd be like, nope.
And then it couldn't even do color too. That's one thing about the laser printers early on. It was like it was always limited. They could just do black and white.
If you wanted an affordable model, because every every color is another thing. A toner, which if I understand how the imaging does,
and the toners was crazy pricing for that too. So it's like
the toners still are pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Well, but I don't know that they're any more expensive than ink.
Yeah, I guess for a commercial printer, yeah, probably similar. But yeah, but I look for in our department the cost of ink. That's probably one of our biggest expenditures, just because our students are always printing out stuff, so we're always buying ink for the printers. So yeah, it's crazy.
I remember the one like a similar setup for in a commercial. Like the one time when I worked in an office. Yeah, there was one time I worked in an office. We had a printer. And we had like a contract with whoever the printer, I don't know whether it was probably the business machine vendor, right? And it was the same deal. Like we got so many pages a month and maintenance, toner, all that was included. And it was like, so at sometimes when we weren't at our monthly limit, it'd be like, hey, who wants to print off a manual? We could read it and we'd run that through the thing because why not? It's free.
Oh, I did get flagged by HP because I was doing so much printing. They said, you've used your monthly allotment. Do you want to upgrade? Because what they do have a rollover, but the rollover is capped. So I think I was getting like 50 pages a month or something like that, and then I was only maybe printing 10 or 20 or something like that. So they're rolling over each month, but they capped the rollover to like 150. So I hit that rollover amount 150. Then they were like, okay, you got to like pay more, or we're going to charge you $1 per 20 jobs or print jobs you're going to be doing. I was like, no, or
$1 per 20
I'm
jobs.
sorry, pages. I'm sorry,
okay,
pages.
So,
yeah, jobs would actually been much better. That's where I was wishing was.
I'll just combine all these PDF files into one.
Yeah, so that's what I've been doing the past 2 weeks as I've been kind of preparing and putting together all my notes.
Well,
and
that makes sense. So I saw a headline or somebody posted something, and they're like, HP basically turned off my printer because my credit card on file was no longer valid.
That's probably what happened.
And I was like, this is not right. This is insane.
They can do that.
No one does that. And then like you're telling me, no, this is a service that exists, and they totally do that. I read that. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Well, it's also because I've never done this before, but HP does have a subscription model where you could basically rent your printer. So they'll send you a printer and the ink for like a month. That's probably what he was doing.
Like the Netflix of print. Okay.
So then they really will just turn off. Now, if I just
when you first said that, I thought you could rent your printer, and it'd be like,
well, that's what you're doing.
Spitting out. No. That you could rent your printer, and it'd be like just like the document spit out. You're like, I don't know. And someone's like, hey, do you have my PDF? You're like, oh yeah, I guess I do. Here you go. Give me $5.
That sounds like a great business, Tim. I gotta find a domain for this. Print me.
Yeah. Print me. Yeah, and it's like, no, we don't have a printer because Bob down the road has a printer. We just send the jobs over to his house, and
a community printer.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden now somebody's house turns into that print shop that we used to go to.
So you made a comment about how it's been so long since you've been in the office because how long you've been working remotely?
All my life, pretty much. I mean,
when was the last time you had like an office job or you went into an office to work besides co-working?
The last time I went into an office to work would have been 2003. Wow. I think, or 2002. So yeah.
And what was that experience like for you back then? I know it was a very long time ago.
Oh, it was weird. I don't know if because like this is my programming origin story. So I got out of a tech school where I went for electronics. Right, there's no jobs in the Valley at that point. I mean, the promise going in was like, oh, we've got a Gear, we've got Lucent, we've got all these Lutron. Interviewed with Lutron. By the way, weirdest interview process ever. Since we're talking about that.
Why is that? What was weird about?
Well, I mean,
it was a long time ago too, though.
Yeah, and I think I was interviewing I think it was an internship. And pretty much you knew there was a guy in the class that knew somebody at Lutron, so it was going to him. But you still had to make it look like you evaluate everybody. Went in, I think I interviewed, I want to say it was like a 5-hour interview process, which if nobody knows who Lutron is, Lutron makes light dimmers. That's their thing. They make light dimmers. They're located in the Valley. They're a different culture company. I don't know that anybody knows that they also own a bunch of pear trees. And you should say, why do they own a bunch of pear trees? I'm not exactly sure, other than I think someone left them the pear trees in the will. So Lutron also has their employees sometimes go out and take care of the pear trees.
Oh, okay. That sounds fun.
Along with doing Lutron-y things. At least that's my understanding. So it's a little bit of a different culture there at Lutron.
That forces the employees to get outside,
I guess.
move around, get some sunlight, pick some pears. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, something like that. I think.
I do that.
forget exactly how it all works, but it's a different culture. But I go in for the interview. I talk to people. They ask me questions about electronics and dimmers and things that you would have to know to work there. Part of the interview is me wiring up and soldering together a light dimmer. So that was fun. Talk about a hands like.
Did you know that you were going to have to do that? Did they prep you, or was that kind of they just threw on you when you got there?
I don't remember if I knew that or not.
But that was something. Was that something that you did do practically, like in your in the
yeah,
school?
I knew how to solder, so yeah.
Well,
yeah,
but actually the board for the dimmer and everything like that. If you did,
I don't even remember if it was. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the board was that we were working on. It's kind of vague to me. I think I had to put it together on, if you know what, like a proto board, which you basically stick wires in, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't know if they gave me just a really simple PCB with a couple components that they wanted me to solder up. I forget exactly what the process was. It was long and annoying to me because I felt like I did really good. And the letter at the end was just like, we picked somebody else. And when you looked at it, you're like, yeah, you picked the guy that everybody knew people at Lutron. Why was I there? And just like you said, you don't really get the feedback, and you don't feel like it was actually evaluated based on your performance. And then at that point, you're like, well, what was the point of me being here? But no, I knew how to solder and all that kind of stuff. I used to be PACE surface mount solder certified, so I could do the surface mount stuff, the SMT stuff, which is super small if you've ever done soldering.
But going back to you working in the office,
is that where we were? That is where we were. How did we get to Lutron? Oh, because I got out of school.
You just brought it up. Yeah.
This is this is people that are watching this are like, this is what it's like.
Because you said it was
when developers get old.
That was your
one. Remember
your true. That was your programmer origin story.
Right,
was that a good experience working in the office, or just something that you kind of like? I don't really like. I want to just do my own thing. And
so no job. No, it was unique. It was unique because there was no jobs that were, kind of the placement of the tech school was, we're going to find you a job. They did not find me a job. So I'm done with school, not working anywhere, a little bit frustrated by that. I feel like I started doing some puppetry for a while, like traveling and doing puppets. Yeah. Why not? Right.
Traveling puppet master.
all up and down the Jersey coast. We did public schools. And there were like assemblies and stuff like that. Did some up in New England when we got booked up there. And I forget exactly where the timing was, but a friend of mine, right? Obviously a friend of mine, was an IBM consultant. Like that was his job for years. And he and his nephew were starting a web hosting company, a boutique web hosting company, right on the cusp of when you could do it. Right before 1&1 and GoDaddy and all the big players just came in the market, and you didn't need boutique web hosting companies. We were starting a boutique web host company, and how this happened was he had his office, and a friend of his, which is also a friend of mine, had a drywall company that needed an office. So they kind of, I guess, moved in and shared the office. And the drywall company was like, hey, IBM consultant guy, computers, could you just manage our network? And he's like, sure, I'll do that. So it's now, we're managing the network. It's like, I got this nephew with this idea. He wants to buy a server rack and run a web hosting company. Drywall company guys like, sure, why not? We've got also money and office space, and we could use a fast internet connection here. Let's throw a T1 line in. Let's move to a different office in a mill, an old mill that still was like stone and all that. It was right down the road from my house. And we will throw a rack in here with a T1 line. We'll become our own web hosting company that's owned by a drywall company, because honestly, the drywall company wanted somebody to manage their IT. And we've got a couple people now that know IT because they're trying to start a web hosting company, and they'll also do work for us too. And I get out, I'm looking for a job, and I'm like, hey, are you looking for someone to do programming type stuff? And they're like, yeah, we use PHP. I'm like, I can read the manual to PHP tonight.
Oh, there
and
you
I
go.
Can come in and talk to you
so
about
that's
that
it.
tomorrow.
That was the PHP beginnings.
Yeah. I actually read it a little bit before because
Nice.
I wanted my own website. So I did some PHP to make my website dynamic or whatever. Read the manual, go in, talk to this guy. It's like, cool. Yeah, you'll work with us, and started work there for about a year. Turns out that web hosting, I don't know, was as lucrative as a business as we were hoping it would be. We had a couple clients, but the worst part was the drywall company going out of business, because that kind of put a damper in the web hosting company that was owned by the drywall company. The other drywall company that came and bought out our drywall company, surprise, was not interested in running a web hosting business.
Makes sense.
And then we were out of business, and I was looking for a job.
Didn't they need at least a website? Could they have paid you for that?
I feel like they were like, I don't know, there's this GoDaddy place, let's just use them, because that's about the time, or Bluehost, or I don't know. Wasn't there a bunch of different hosting companies? Something.
Oh yeah,
they were all becoming big at that point. I think 101 was
101. I've used Bluehost, 101, HostGator.
Yeah, HostGator. I forgot about them. 101 is now Ionis or something. I don't know what they even call themselves anymore, but I'm still actually a customer of theirs.
So the reason why I was asking this, because I was thinking about you've been remote since, and where you're working now, it's pretty much remote. Everyone is remote.
Yeah, everyone's remote,
in the company.
Yep.
So if they decided to have, let's say, if the stars aligned, and like they did for some reason, want to build a location next to Cabela's in Hamburg.
Oh wow, yeah.
Would you? How often would you stop in? What would be kind of a sweet spot for you for like spending time in the office, working with some of your coworkers?
This is a weird like.
It's a hypothetical, I know, but I'm just curious.
It would never happen.
It would never happen
to the company I work for now.
If the commute was like very easy for you.
Let's not say it happened to this company. Let's say I was working for a different company who had an office near Cabela's, because it's just like one of those things where nobody else is around here. So it's like, so you're the hypothetical you're saying is there are other people that actually work here too. Yeah. In this office, right?
So I'm curious, how much time would you spend on in the office and then working from home?
That's an interesting question. I don't know.
Because to me, I one of the reasons why I love teaching is I love going someplace and doing it in person and being with people. That's kind of a part of me. But I do think there is times definitely for some separation. So for me, it's like 3 to 2, like 3 days possibly on site and then 2 days remote. But then there's some people who could only do 1 or 2 days, in the office. They need to be, kind of in their own space, in their own home office and work from there.
Right. And I think that's another interesting parameter to add is when we say in the office, is this office like a open office, right? Like the open floor plan type of thing. Oh, shoot. I didn't see. We have chats coming in, people waving at us. Oh, from Twitter, we actually apparently can get comments coming in. How distracting of me to finally realize that now.
We're talking about working in an office and being distracted, so it kind of fits.
What was that? Yeah, it kind of depend if it was like the open office concept where we go here when we want to be collaborative, and it's not like I have my office with my computer. And that's the other thing. It's like my computer would not be there. It would be here. My dev system would be here. And I have, whether it's because I'm the older developer now or whatever, I don't work as well on a laptop as I used to. I like my Linux box.
It's a little bit of work to keep them in sync too.
Screens.
Yeah, it's a little bit of hassle to keep everything in sync.
Yeah, I mean, some of the tools, like I can connect to it remotely and code on the Surface, but it's actually working on the code that's right on my desktop. So like that kind of helps, but it's still like I use. It's
not a good experience.
I use all of the screen real estate, and I'm used to that, and I'm not used to switching applications. I'm used to having them all up where I need them. So, I mean, I would come down to probably one day, and it would be the day that I would want to have the very collaborative meetings where we are talking. But that would also mean my expectation, and this is where it gets weird, right, is then that would be where I would expect other people to be there. Because if I was going to work 1 day a week, well, what's the point if everybody else isn't there? And if everybody else was going to work 1 day a week, well, what if it wasn't the day I picked? And then you get into this thing where from a team dynamic, it's like, oh, well, so we're all in the office on Monday. What's the office for then the rest of the time?
Yeah.
You know, unless you work there all the time. And it's hard for me to say, like, it'd be weird for me right now in my role, because there'd almost be the expectation if I was there, the rest of the team should be there, because that's when we're going to do these type of collaborative things. If it was, you know, rewind 7 years, right, when I was working as a developer evangelist, there nobody reports to me. I'd stop in to collaborate. Like maybe that's where I'd set up meetings with the people I would need to talk to, and I'd be out and on my own and doing whatever I was doing. That would be a different situation. But if I was in the role of kind of leading a team and mentoring a development team, it feels weird for me to just be going into the office 1 day a week. You know,
so it's interesting
because it feels like that means everybody else should be there. And when I'm not there, yeah, it's just I don't know.
But do you feel you need to do that because that's kind of like the face-to-face would be important for you, like kind of
if
personally?
Everybody was around in the same geographic location, then yeah, I feel like we'd have a benefit of being able to have some face-to-face time. But again, I'm of the opposite perspective when it comes to hiring. I want to hire the best people no matter where they are.
Yeah, where they are. Yep.
You know, I don't want them to have to move here. And if I want that, then yeah, then we're going to have to say we have to figure out how to interact in a remote friendly way.
Well, there could be some good real estate prices around the Hamburg area.
Well, we could make everybody come here, but I don't think they'd really want to. But yeah, you're right that the real estate. I mean, hey, if you're comparing Hamburg real estate prices to prices in the Bay Area, you're going to be surprised. You're going to be surprised. But no, I'm far more of the I like the async, you know, or not even that's the wrong word. No. Because we can be collaborative.
And it definitely works because your company's always been that way, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like they, you know, because of COVID, they went online. No, they've always been remote. And so that's the culture within the company. So,
and we like the dev team is spread across the country.
And that's what you hire for too, making sure people are comfortable with that and can work well. Yeah.
Yep. So that's it's an interesting question. I don't know. You know, I don't. Yeah, it's hard for me to if I was doing the DevRel stuff again, then yeah, probably 1 day a week would be where I'd be in the office. But that was always tough for me because I was conveniently located halfway between both of our offices, which happened to be in San Francisco and London. So right smack dab in the middle. You know, similar flight times.
It's just a short hop.
Yeah. So,
well, it's interesting when I'm looking at positions. There are opportunities in Philadelphia. There's no way I want to commute down to Philadelphia again. Oh my gosh. Like maybe I was thinking, could I do 1 or 2 days? Possibly.
Even if there was a train, man, no.
Well, that's the big thing. Yeah, that's missing Lehigh Valley. A train doesn't make sense.
That's what they're talking about, right?
It'll never get done.
Yeah, I can't see it happening.
But you know what I'm really interested in is like a remote to, you know, kind of remote to possibly being on site kind of transition. So looking at like a remote job, but they would be okay with me being remote for a little bit, but then also be based in location that I'd be interested in, you know, my family relocating to. So that would be the ultimate.
So not Philadelphia. So not okay.
Yeah, so if I'm going to find a job in New Jersey, Philadelphia, I'm not going to be moving. So we're not going to be uprooting. But if we're going to find a job in another state, then it would be great if it starts off remote and then because I kind of do want to get closer to where, you know, I kind of need that. Need a little face to face, Tim.
Yeah,
just like I need you every Friday.
But that's the thing. This is where I think, you know, if you as a team can have some of those face-to-face times, which we obviously have, we know each other, right? Like we've interacted in the real world, right? And not just this two-dimensional video space. But as long as you provide the opportunity for people to get to know each other that way, then I think you can actually do a lot with the remote concept with the tooling that we have. Right? Just be like, have a culture of like, when we're having a conversation, our video's on so you can see each other's face, you can read the body language, and you can understand it because you have spent some time together in the past. You know, I think that's an important part. Like we have to get together at some point, but it doesn't necessarily have to be weekly. It just has to be enough for us to understand how we work, pick up on those cues. So when we are in the 2-dimensional video space, we understand each other better. So, but interview today, classified ad next week.
Yeah,
you're going to knock this out of the park.
True. I have to report back on the classified ad.
I'm waiting for that. I'm so excited about classified.
I never thought about that. Just talking to you, that was kind of an interesting thing. I was like, man, that may actually work. You just do the complete opposite what everybody else is doing.
Yeah,
and put a printout out there.
Yeah. The only thing you do better is just like where you have the signs that are attached to the telephone poles, like I buy houses.
Mm-hmm.
You're like AWS consultant.
I'm getting curious. I'm going to try to do this after lunch. I'm going to ask ChatGPT or Google Gemini. Think of yourself as a newspaper editor in the 1980s, writing a classified ad for a cloud architect. What would be? You're limited by a certain number of words.
Yeah.
Give me the ad for that.
Be fun to see. All righty. So okay. So you know what I'm going to do? I think I can end the stream now. So for those of you who are watching the after show, thank you, I guess, but definitely listen to the podcast. It's better quality. And